Hello, it's Ed with Slow Car Fix, and today I am working on my 57 Chevy truck with a Gen 3 6-liter LS that I've installed, and I'm laying out the wiring harness, and it's a reworked factory harness, and I'm mounting the PCM. So I've been on vacation for a little bit and wasn't really working on the truck, and then I was doing some things and I didn't record it. And then I did some things that I did record, like modify the stock LS exhaust manifolds for my application. And my SD card died. So I may have lost that video, I may not. We'll see if that one gets posted before this one. Anyways, I'll give you a little walk around, and I'm going to start on some things on the truck to keep progress rolling. Okay, so these are the manifolds. In case I don't get that video back, I cut the flanges off, and I cut them on a wedge shape, reoriented this, reclocked this so it doesn't hit the frame rail, and realigned them so they basically work for my application. And then I just threw a quick coat of header paint on them that I'm sure will only last like 5 minutes, but that's okay. They're welded inside and out, 2 passes on each one, MIG welded. These are cast steel, so not cast iron. So as long as you clean up the area, you can weld them fine with just a MIG welder and get good penetration. My drive shaft is here. I should jam that in because it's in the way. The only thing I had to do was, while I was away, I had a friend of mine get a conversion joint for it, and he put in the conversion U-joint, so it converts it from the size U-joint that is on that was in the truck to the size for the LS. Lots of parts, my harness stuff, which I think is what I'm going to start on. This is all my fuel system, fancy dash, shifter, that sort of thing. What I did do that I didn't record was the radiators installed, accessories are on. I have clearance from the power steering pump pulley to the power steering box, so that's good news. That's really good news, actually. Like I said, the manifolds now fit, so I really need to start tying this together. Lists are very important. I have a giant list of things to do. So they're very important to keep you on task, and I guess I will just keep working. This is my harness all stretched out. This is the harness that I had reworked by a local shop that's all they do. I've got a nice fuse box there. You can see I've got to clean up all these things and get ready to install them. I just got to start figuring out where all this stuff goes, which is kind of going to be fun. I think I can probably, a nice easy spot to start would be, I know all these coils have to get plugged into something, so I could start there. I don't know. Yeah, I got to figure out where that's all going to go, and this is for the engine specific harness. Like, this is a factory harness that's been reworked for my application, but I still have, there's the engine harness, and then I've got to make the stuff from the truck work. So I know that doesn't really sound very clear, but the big thing is to lay this all in, and then I've got a little instruction sheet that tells me what I have to get power to, what I have to ground, all that sort of stuff. It doesn't really look like there's that much to do besides find out where all this stuff plugs in and plug it in. Okay, so one thing that will come in handy, if you go to the ICT website, ICT makes a lot of good products. I have nothing to do with them other than I buy their stuff sometimes. They have this complete LS swap guide by ICT Billet that you can download and print. In the back of it is the what all the connectors do. So this is very helpful because I have zero idea what I'm doing. My last swap, the harness was already done for me and on the engine. So what I need to do is, or what I needed to do was find one spot to start. So the one thing that was easy for me to find was the drive-by-wire plug. These little guys are for the injectors, so that would make sense. So now I can kind of work my way back. This might not be the right way to do it, but this is the way that I'm going to start to do it anyways. The injectors each have a plug, so now I can work my way back and dress this through this loom, or through this deal here, and then presumably my coil that's probably my coil connector that goes right here to my coil pack setup. So I can kind of work my way back from here, and then I can see which way the harness is oriented and work my way around to figure out where everything's going to go. It looks like my harness has been laid out for the computer and the fuse box to be on the driver's side. I didn't specify that one way or another. Probably should have. But, well, there's enough loom, I can probably make it go wherever the hell I want. So, I don't know. I'm going to get everything on the engine first and then decide, what I need to do to mount the harness, to mount the computers and the fuse box and all that stuff. Okay, so I'm making some progress. The good thing is I took some pictures beforehand, which was helpful, but things have changed, so it's not exactly the same. I've got the injectors all connected. I don't know where this main loom goes. This thing here bolts onto one of these somehow or something. I gotta figure out how that goes, and that'll determine a lot of stuff. There's a pigtail that goes down to the transmission. There's a whole bunch of stuff for the transmission. There's one that plugs in on the back of the manifold. There's a temperature, I think that's a cylinder head temperature probe there. I think I found the drive-by wire one has a oil pressure thing that I've got to plug in. It looks like this guy. I gotta find where it goes. So I think I'm gonna put the truck up and look underneath and maybe start doing the underneath connections. Other than that, this guy here, this long thing, I think is the mass airflow for the air filter. on the intake, I should say. So it comes together pretty quick. This is for the O2 sensor. There's one on each side. The big thing is picking a starting point for me. I picked a starting point at the throttle body because that was easy, and I just worked my way sort of around. I found where the harness clearly goes down below. Like, even if you don't use the specific guy that I used, there's a lot of guys wherever in your area that can do this sort of thing with harnesses, and they kind of rough them in and set them up. My Malibu one was similar, but the only difference was it was already on the engine when I got it, and I picked up the engine running. So this one's a little different situation, but it was also cheaper. So don't know what this is. That obviously is a ground of some sort. My plug-in for my harnesses, my nice little fuse box he gave me. So I'm going to put the truck up and connect the stuff that's underneath and try and get it out of the way. The one thing you want to be mindful of is exhaust. Where's your exhaust going to be, right? You don't want your exhaust touching these wires, and you want to dress it in as tidy as possible. I've got to figure out, like I said, how this goes. I can't really see it on the pictures I took, on the before pictures I took. So I may have to get the little bracket that goes here for that intake cover and look at it, and worst case, get it with the Google. So this is underneath the truck. This is all my transmission-ish stuff. I gotta figure out where that oil pressure guy, this guy, where this guy here goes. I don't know. I don't see a spot for him, but I'm sure there is one. I'm just not seeing it. Maybe this gets plugged into something that looks like a oil pressure type thing, different type thing. So let's just look for the obvious examples. There's a round guy. Got a round guy here. Get a light closer. So I'm going to look for the obvious examples, and I'm going to take the round guy and how does that go? Like one way or another? Is there a right way or a wrong way? Yeah, it only goes one way. That's the nice thing about a lot of these connectors, is they only go one way. So, and then when they go on with a nice little, of course I won't be able to show you, but a nice little pop. So let's see if I can get this guy. And you don't want to force any of them, because if they're not quite right, then they're not right. So this one should go on just like so, or not. See, it's okay. So it has a little tab on the one side, not on the other. So now look at that connector. Oh yeah, it's got a tab on this side. So that's what I'm saying, like they kind of only go one way. Bang. Hear that little click? And then this wire here probably goes to this one, making you all dizzy. Looks like, I don't know what it does, but it looks like it goes in here. Yeah, it goes in with a nice little click. There's the main plug. The main plug goes on, looks like it goes on like, nope, see those, you don't see, because see, it only goes on one way. Those little nubs have to line up with the slots, so it doesn't go on that way. It goes on this other way. Should be a nice little click when it's in right. Oh no, this one's got this guy here. So you push this in and you push this up, and then it doesn't come off. Isn't that handy? What else we got? We got one more up here, and you don't have, like, it's nice to know what these things are, but I don't know what they are. As long as you, it's only a problem if you're missing something. So this guy, that's the transmission plugged in. Transmission's completely plugged in. I'm just gonna get this last, you can see where the loom goes. And once the exhaust is on, you wanna make sure that that's all clear and not a problem. I can get rid of this because this is the old speedometer cable that's not going to be needed anymore. So that's the transmission hooked up. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 4-ish plugs. This guy here, what's this guy do? Oh, that's the O2. I'm pretty sure that's the O2. Yeah, that's the O2 sensor. These are like a triangular type guy. So what, I don't know where, the only one I haven't found yet is this one here. I haven't found where he goes. I do see that there's a nice spot. This is going to be confusing. So I haven't found where this guy goes yet. I'll have to look. But I see there's this ground, there's a stud back here that it can go on. So I'll probably put it on there. When I install my shifter, it'll get connected to this. This is your, I guess, I don't know what they call it these days, but I'd call it like a Prindle switch, like your park, reverse neutral drive low switch. And like that's what controls your thing going in and out of gear. I have a mechanical shifter that's going to directly connect to that, so that'll be interesting to see how that goes. But that's the transmission hooked up. This O2 is going to plug into the O2 sensor on the exhaust. This is really not that hard. Now I did pay a bit of money to have this harness pre-done for me, so that was handy. And but what I spent, I'm saving in time, and I don't have to be an expert on LS wiring to plug things into where they go. Okay, I found where this oil pressure switch is. This is the back of the intake manifold. You can see I had this one plugged in, this 2-wire, but then there's an oil pressure switch with no plug in it. And the plug that I couldn't find a home for, that's right here, is that same size. There's also a stud back there to put that ground on that I had. It's important to not leave it if you, that little wire, it's really easy to connect or to not connect and to miss. And then if I went to go start it, maybe it wouldn't run right, or it's certainly not going to read oil pressure. I'm going to think I've got no oil pressure. That's a bad deal, especially when I'm, was into the oil pan and stuff like that. And so I'm going to plug that in now. It's important to not miss anything and make sure that you plug everything in. And once I get that and that ground back there, that's pretty much the entire back of the engine other than the O2 sensors. And then it's just all this crap up here, which is looks like a lot, but it's not really, because this plugs into something, this plugs into something, that plugs into something. Then it's just this little bit of, like, this is all the wiring. It's just this. And these guys, some of these guys go to my OBD port. I gotta put the port on. He gave me one to put on. It's kind of nice that he did it this way, even though it's a bit more work for me, that he gave me the wiring for the OBD port and gave me the plug so I could install it in the truck, because what I had to do with my Malibu was the plug was already on it and I didn't want to screw with it, so I had to drill a big hole, or use a big hole, to get it through the firewall to be able to mount that plug. So it's easier this way. I just have to have a hole the size of this wires. Now if you've been following the build on this truck, you know that I'm not short on holes in the firewall to put wiring or whatever the hell I want through. So that should be okay. But I'm gonna get that oil pressure thing hooked up, get that ground on, and then really it's just figuring out how this sits on top of the engine properly, because I might have to just Google and see how that goes on this particular truck engine. And then once I have that, I can decide where this harness is going to kind of naturally lay, which, you know, I'll have to build a shelf or something to hold the computer. Okay, after some Googling and looking at pictures and trying to identify what's what, it goes like this. This bracket goes up here. This is the bracket for the cover, and the cover just clips in and goes down and then screws into this. So I need to clean this up because it's still cruddy. Clean this up, and then it looks like everything for the computers and stuff is going to be in this area. So I have to, which is fine actually, because I think I have less room on the other side. The battery goes up on the firewall in this truck, so it's not too bad that way. But I'm going to have to build some sort of area or have some sort of something for stuff to sit on, like the fuse box and all that stuff. On my Malibu, I did a shelf. Actually, let's go over and I'll show you what I did on the Malibu. Okay, this is my 1981 Malibu with a Gen 4 LS. This is 5.3. You can see everything is very tight in here. But I built this shelf. It's a Gen 4, so it had, I guess it's the same amount of things, just a different plug configuration. It's got the, I believe this is the engine computer, and that's the transmission computer, and then this is the fuse box. So I did a whole series of videos, like 30 videos on doing this, putting this car together. But this shelf here that I built is probably something like what I'm going to have to build for the other one, for the truck. And you can see this one, the harness comes all over here and sits over here nice and tidy. This other one, it's set up so it's like the factory location, so it'll come across and come, I think, behind the alternator, and I'll probably put stuff over here. You can see on this one, I didn't have a lot of clearance. I've got 3/8 of an inch between the pulley and the steering box. I don't have that issue on the truck, but I'm using the same pulley, the smaller reduced pulley, and stock accessories, the same as I did on this Malibu. Now things are starting to make sense. So I cleaned up these brackets and put them on. Sort of all fits. This guy here, this computery looking box deal, whatever this is, this plugs into my drive-by-wire pedal, this guy. This grommet obviously goes through the firewall somehow. So I have to, when I'm positioning where I'm going to mount this, it has to be within proximity so I can get it, actually bake it to the pedal without having to splice wires. That's the easy way to do it, easier way to do it. You can see how, so this guy here is going to go probably to this, yeah, it goes to this. So I've got the length of this and the length of this to get me to the pedal. So if I mount this box somewhere like here, I'm probably fine. So I'll probably do that. It's sort of naturally kind of laying there. This guy here, these guys, plug into the main PCM. So I have to mount this PCM somehow. And I don't see any holes in it or anything. So that's kind of confusing. I'm not really sure how I'll mount this guy. That's going to actually look okay and be secure and all that good stuff. So I have to mount that. It's going to go somewhere in this area as well. And then this fuse box will go somewhere in this area. I'll have to figure out... Oh, I think I decided this was the... Yeah, I think I decided this was the MAF for the mass airflow, which is... Let's look at it. This is the factory intake. Yeah, so this is the mass airflow here. So if I'm building an intake like I did on my Malibu or something, I have to incorporate this mass airflow in there and then plug that in. Or, you know, I could repurpose this this big giant plastic air filter. The downfall with the open air filters is they sound like crap to me when you honk on it. It sounds like the old school flipping the breather upside down on a 350 Chevy or something. But the upside is they look good. This doesn't have that sound, but they kind of look like crap and they take up a giant pile of space. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do there. Probably I'll just make something like I did on the Malibu. As for performance gains, like, I don't really care. You know, you're going to get a marginal gain for having an open air filter versus having this. For this application, it's not a race truck. It's going to have way more power than it was ever supposed to have anyways, so it doesn't really matter. So, you know, that becomes the hard part. What I'd like to do with this, which is what I did with the Malibu, is you put the rad hoses on first, because the rad hoses are a little bit harder to deal with than the intake, and then you make the intake go wherever it goes, wherever you have space left. But I'm getting somewhere with this, so that's okay. That's good. And then I have to get the cover, this cover here. See, it just clips into that back piece and folds down. So I'll clean this up, and it'll be nice that I can actually fit that on this one, because I couldn't fit that on the Malibu due to hood clearance. But I'm making one for the Malibu. It's coming like Christmas. So I guess the next step is to just kind of figure out where I'm going to put stuff now that I've got things kind of sorted. I know what things are now. Process of elimination is a wonderful thing. I can't recommend this enough, this ICT book. Like I said, the only thing I bought from ICT is I bought their engine mount brackets that are down there. However, they were my go-to stop if for whatever reason this power steering thing didn't have clearance. I was going to get the whole bracketry that moves everything inbound. You can see my crappy paint job. So I guess I'll keep looking at where I'm going to put stuff. Okay, so I have the wire running for the drive-by-wire pedal. I made a grommet that goes down in there. This is sort of, got this kind of figured out. What I think I need to do, and I don't know how I'm going to get them out. These screws are pretty seized in. I need to get these screws out. I need to make some sort of bracketry with the sheet metal on my brake, and so I can mount PCM somewhere right there-ish or something. Once I make the brackets, I'll be able to determine better, but it's not like the Gen 4. The Gen 4 has holes that go through that you can use to bolt. Gen 3 is different. So I'm not sure how this would have went with factory, but I'm going to try and get these screws out, and then I'll make a little bracket for that to mount. This guy's easy enough. It can just mount anywhere. That's for the drive-by-wire pedal. And this fuse box just has a couple of holes in it. So not sure how far I'll get to on this video, but I'll keep going and I'll stop when I stop. I certainly won't get it all done. But fortunately, the guy gave me a nice set of instructions. It tells me what it is that I need to do for the various things. Some hints, tips. The guy that I got, which is a different guy that I got the one for the Malibu from, also gave me a set of instructions. Not quite as pretty as this, but also a very good detailed set of instructions that was obviously contributed to my success. So I'm going to try and get these out, figure out a way to mount this. And, so this guy here goes, let's just look at that actually for an explanation. So the wires that we have, the fuse box wires, this big red 14 gauge, no, that's not 14 gauge, it's bigger than that. It's 4 gauge. This non-fuse red wire says to connect directly to the battery, and if it's going to be any length, which it probably is, any length longer than what it is, that it should get an 80 amp fuse. So I'll probably put a fuse in it, 80 amp inline fuse. I'll put that on my note to buy. That's the wire that powers the fuse box. The pink wire that I've got here is the ignition input. Purple is the starter input. This blue one is for the electric fuel pump output, power to the fuel pump. The yellow is for one fan and the red is for the second fan. So that's very easy. That's that one for the battery. So just to recap, this goes to the battery. And if it's longer than a couple of feet, you want an inline fuse. I put an inline fuse on the Malibu. The pink is for the ignition input. Purple is for starter input. My yellow here is for my one fan. Red's for the other fan. Blue is for fuel pump output. Now that's going to be different. Like these ones will be different depending on who did your fuse box. It could be any color. But these ones here, the pink and the purple, should be the same no matter who did it, because that's the GM wiring that's just reused. The other thing that I've got that he gave me provisions for, let's just look at what this pile is. I'm figuring it out as I'm talking to you. So the white wire he gave me is for the tack. The brown wire he gave me is for the check engine light, mill light. The green wire goes to the OBD. And the yellow wire is for the vehicle speed sensor. So that's not really a lot of wiring. What else do we got? This talks about transmission and vehicle wiring. That's all the wiring. Where's the rest of it? Where'd be the rest? I guess maybe that's it. For the 15th time, this is the one that goes to the, now I can't remember what it's called, mass airflow sensor. So that's pretty straightforward. Transmission and vehicle wiring. It says the purple wire needs 12 volts all the time. So this is for the brake light switch, or for the brake switch. Reverse lights. Switch will activate. These should be connected to your backup lights. And then it gave me provisions for cruise control. So where are those? You guys are figuring it out with me. Somewhere is some wiring that I can't find. That will go into the passenger compartment, and I will connect to all that crap, but I don't see that. Maybe I have to take it out of here. There's my nice fuse box, relays, all that sort of stuff. Let's just see what I got here. Here we go. Knew there was more wires. So, this is the cruise control stuff. You've got a gray, dark blue, gray and black, and a light blue. So that's all the cruise control stuff. So I can get either a generic switch, or I can get one of those ones I'll probably get one of those ones that goes on the, like a factory one that goes on the column. I did that in the Malibu. So that's that. And those colors should all be the same for any Gen 3 LS, because, like I said, this is just repurposed from the factory harness. So that's not really changed. The only ones, like I said, that'll be different are the ones coming out of the fuse panel. They could be whatever color the guy who makes the harness does. So somewhere there should be a purple wire and a gray and pink wire. The brake light switch one, I've done that before. It just goes to the switch that's on the back of your pedal. I can show you actually. There's a switch somewhere here. Where is this one? I don't know. There's a switch here somewhere. This guy right here. That when you push on the pedal, it it will either open or close the switch. I think it closes, when you push on the pedal, it closes the switch, which completes the circuit and gives you brake lights. So you have to run the a wire to that switch from the this harness. I did it the same thing with the Malibu, except its switch is like down here on the floor or something, and it had a couple of more prongs. It wasn't just a 2-prong switch. I think it was maybe a 3-prong. Yeah, so I've roughed in, like, this is all, the harness is sitting there for the pedal, but I don't have this pedal final installed because I want to pull it out and paint it and clean it and stuff. Obviously, if you've been following my videos, you see that I have a big giant hole in the floor that I got to finish. This is the grommet I made for that wiring for the drive-by-wire pedal, but I haven't final installed it yet because I'm probably going to run some more wires through there. And then I have some strip caulk, 3M strip caulk, that will seal that in. And I'll have to seal around here and a bunch of other places. And then one of my other projects is to sound deaden this entire interior. Hey, there's my safety glasses. This is the temperature gauge. So that's the one thing that's kind of interesting. With my new gauge setup, it's going to plug into the OBD R2D2 port. My new gauge cluster goes in here, and it plugs into the OBD port. And I don't have to wire for any sensors or anything. So I'm going to lose this temperature gauge, external temperature gauge. This one was here because the one in this doesn't work. I'm going to lose that tack. I don't know, maybe I'll put it in the Malibu or something, which will be a whole deal in itself. So I'm going to lose that tack because that's all in my Dakota digital gauge. Now, the Dakota digital gauge was quite expensive, and it's specific for this application. So this is the gauges, and it lights up and gives you your park, reverse, neutral, drive, all that stuff. I think it also has, if you buy the sensor for it, it's got a temperature thing for like outside air temperature, ambient temperature, and it's also got a compass. This little extra box here, this is the Obd2 interface, so that way I don't have to try and wire this thing. It's really all plug and play. This was expensive, but this is going to save me a huge pile of time. And really, to factor it all in the Malibu, I used one of those boxes that converts the cable signal to electric signal, and that was still a lot of money. So this it was a lot more money, but it's a lot easier. It should save me a bunch of time, and it's probably more reliable. I think I did this before. I think with the Malibu, it was the same thing. I started wiring and ended up welding. I don't know what the heck happened. So I got a little carried away, as happens sometimes, but I'm happy with the result. And I will show you what I'm talking about here now. I made something. Okay, I could not figure out how to get these screws out of the... Well, I could, I guess, figure out how to get the screws out, but they're Torx head, and they're kind of stripped and corroded, and I didn't want to screw with it too much. I tried a few things. I made a screwdriver that fit in there, and it was just a nightmare. I didn't really want to get into it. So I made a box, tissue box, I guess. I bent up some sheet metal and welded some sheet metal and made some tabs and all kinds of things. It should be fine for clearance to the hood latch, which I had trouble with on the Malibu when I made that shelf. It should be fine for clearance to the hood because the hood on this truck goes like this kind of thing. It should be fine for everything. The only thing that's not good about it is it needs to be painted. I have some textured rubberized stuff that I used on my bed liner floor that I'm going to use on this that I think will look really good. It'll, I don't have to get into like fine metal finishing or priming and a bunch of crap. I just use some textured finish. That'll be fine. I'm not sure what I'll do about this. I could get a sticky back, little sticky back thing and put tie wrap on it. That'd be kind of cool. I wanted these away from the weather. I couldn't have them upside down because there's not really a way to support computer, and then you'll have road water coming up and getting it. If I had it facing the front, I'd have potentially water coming in. Potentially water coming in from top, so still likely going to have water there, but it's a little better, I think. I think it's the best I could do. So sometimes your best just has to be good enough. So I got that. I'll have to figure out where to mount this fuse box. Probably a nice little handy spot for this fuse box would be like somewhere like right here, and then back here I could mount that drive-by-wire box. But right now I'm going to clean up my mess that I have made, because I went from electrical to metalworking, and I'm going to spray that. It's going to stay overnight, sit overnight, and that'll be it. Okay, thanks for watching. Hopefully I will have dropped in some pictures for you to see the end result of the box for the computer support for the PCM. My harness is all in place. That's a huge thing off the list. There's very little wiring left to do. There's like 8 wires. I shouldn't say very little, because when I get into tying it into the truck, it is going to be a show, because there's a lot of stuff in the truck that I'll have to correct. As I did with my Malibu, it'll be a lot of figuring stuff out and trying to correct things as I go, and figuring out issues with the truck itself more so than the wiring on the LS end of it. The LS end of it is pretty well there, other than you can plug in the O2s, wire in the fan. I will bring you with me on the continuation of this, of tying it into the truck, and I'll do another video on that. But I'm pretty happy with the progress. I did lose, I believe I lost my video on making the exhaust manifolds, so sorry about that. But it's pretty straightforward, and if you can weld well, then you can modify those cast steel exhaust manifolds to fit pretty much whatever you want. So that's handy, because I really don't like the way the headers seal on the Malibu, and they're just cheap headers. If I had my time back, I would probably just run manifolds on them. It's like I said before, I'm not really that concerned about the minimum gains that I'll get from performance from that sort of thing. Thanks for watching. Please click the notification bell if you want to see some of my other videos and get alerted when I post them. Subscribe if you care to. It doesn't cost anything. It just lets you know when my videos are up. Thanks for watching.